January 1, that's November 25th, 5:30 p.m. We call the Leesburg City Commission meeting to order. We ask our Honorable Gas Director, Mr. Jack Rogers, to lead us in prayer tonight.
Let's bow, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. And Father, as we anticipate Thursday, we're reminded that there's so much that we had to be thankful for. Father, we're thankful for the city family, for all of the citizens, for all of our public servants, and everybody that puts themselves in the line of duty each day. So Father, as we remember to be thankful, we're asking you also to please bless this evening. We ask for wisdom and guidance and knowledge, and ask that you just help us to employ that this evening in all the decisions that we make for the betterment of the city and for the citizens here. And we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Rogers?
I might get struck down by
I
lightning.
told Al, I said he hasn't prayed since I've been on the council. I got 2 more meetings. I wonder if he would pray before we leave.
I pray every meeting, believe you me. Maybe just the good Lord hears.
Tonight we have no proclamations, and 3 have presentations. Presentation by Beacon College, information update and about college improvement plans. Mr. Haggard and the staff. Steve Mueller.
Good evening. I'm George Haggerty, and I'm the president of Beacon College. I'm a person with fairly bad eyesight, so I have Steve Mueller here with me, who's our vice president for institutional advancement, who will help me if I run into any trouble with the slides that are up. This is not a formal request, but I wanted to talk a bit with the City Council about some plans that we would like to propose that would, I think, influence positively our end of Main Street. And I first want to say that everything that we have attempted at Beacon over the course of the past 5 years has been to not only improve the institution for our students and their families, but also for the pride of the city of Leesburg. And as you have seen, we have made numerous improvements to our end of East Main Street. And those have, I hope, been a source of recognition and pride for the city of Leesburg. You may or may not, I think you probably all remember the Chopping Block, which was a restaurant here in town that was purchased by the college in 2010. Unfortunately, the Chopping Block has lived its useful life in its current situation, and so it needs to be totally reconstructed. Basically, we have floated a tax-exempt bond issue to undertake that reconstruction. We intend that reconstruction will begin sometime in mid-March, and that will be the renovation of the kitchen. Right now we're in the early architectural phase and intend to try to get the architectural and approval phases done by about March 15th so that we could start to make a change to that building. Given the current status of the building, the only thing that will remain is the brick wall, which the Historical Commission asked for us to maintain, and we intend to do that. But the roof has been very much compromised, and so we intend to basically take everything out of there. We've been told that this project, completed, will be done by late August. I've been promised those things before, so I'm looking for sometime in September or October for that. Part of the project that we would like to ultimately propose to the city is for the transfer of First Street, a portion of First Street, for the completion of a park, a walking park, which very much is similar to what we did with Duran Park, which used to be Palmetto Street. It does, we're proposing it for 3 reasons. One is to complete the essential footprint of the college. The second piece is to beautify, continue to beautify that end of Main Street. And the third piece is safety. Our students would not have to go across the street at all, except to go down to a couple of buildings on the other end of Main Street. And as you probably know, we did have a student in a wheelchair hit last year right in that area. So those are the 3 primary reasons that we would like to undertake that proposal, which I hope to bring to the City Council in December. Let me go through just a few slides. I think we've already done that. The overall well, let me speak about this. We're very proud. We hope you are. I just received an invitation from the UN to go to the UN headquarters in Vienna to present on Beacon College, and that will happen in February. We just got back from a trip to Dubai. Last year we were in Paris. And this little college has taken home some pretty incredible recognitions. You need to know that the college was not even ranked 6 years ago. And now we have a number of #1 rankings in the country, a #2 ranking. Even the #4 ranking that you see there is important because it's all 3,600 institutions. And that #4 ranking, which was provided in the top 20 institutions that are considered best values because they graduate students on time and do it for a modest tuition. Now, our tuition is pretty hefty, but our graduation rates are significantly higher than the national average. And in this group, you have Princeton, you have Caltech, many much larger and better named institutions, but we are considered #4 in the United States for graduating students on time, something that we're very proud about. In our specialty, we're either #1 or #2 in the nation, and like I said, that kind of growth in our reputation has led to our institution going from 187 students to 420 students. I'll just tell you quickly about the business model in higher education. As most of you know, higher education has a great deal to do with mission and with vision. And our little institution has a business model that takes us to 450 to 500 students. On the national scale, that's relatively small, but given the unique focus of our institution, which is students with learning disabilities, ADHD, and students college-ready students on the autistic spectrum, that is a perfect size. It's also financially feasible to continue this and to continue it to be sustainable financially and programmatically. So these recognitions mean a great deal to us and assure us that our final number, which we think is between 450 and 500. Right now, we're at 420. We got to 420 a little earlier than we thought we would, but next year we do anticipate we'll have 450 students, and you may know that we're also constructing a residence hall for 96 students. So everything that we've tried to do, which picture is this?
That's one of the bodies in motion.
This is what we call the Mason Art Gallery right now, and it started out as a former fitness center. And what we attempted to do, when I came to Beacon, I certainly saw that inside, this was a serious academic community. Inside, it really was very functional, and it met the needs of our students. But it was on the outside, where you had storefronts and really did not know where the campus was, and it was a very problematic feature to the institution. So we we not only renovated the inside the first year, which was 2013, but by 2014 we added a facade, which I think is pretty nice. The library, the former bank and a number of stores there that were storefronts. That houses our library, our major academic building right now. And you can see what we did with that. And I want to reinforce that this is all fundraised money. We've raised about almost $2 million for these projects. People have been very, very generous to us as we've tried to do this as a nonprofit private institution. And here's Durand Park, which used to be Palmetto Street. It was a substandard, thin street that was not well utilized, and we promised that we do something beautiful with it. It has 4 water features. It is a public space. I know some people have said that it is not a public space. It is a public space, and you can ask lots of people who walk through there to get to the bus or may actually have their lunches along there. So it's very much a public space. This is the Anthrozoology Lab. We have one of the only 3 anthrozoology majors, accredited majors in the country. And it was in need of significant repair inside and outside, and we wanted to change it up a little bit from the other end of Main Street, change the architecture to make it interesting, and this is what we came about. So here's the chopping block. Is that as it now is? And there's First Street. Okay, concept sketch, as you can see, it doesn't go all the way down First Street. It leaves the one end open on Magnolia, and it allows for the traffic for the business that is currently down there. We also have undertaken a study of the traffic. Most of the traffic actually that goes down First Street actually comes from our parking lot in the back of our building there. So again, we will be in work with the architect over the course of the next 2 months. Tomorrow we have a major meeting on what this will all look like. And what you can see there is the building, a rough estimate of what the building will look like. And why don't we go to the flyover? So that's the most recent concept that we have of what First Street might look like. We're happy to talk about what that whole walking park could look like and the features that it can have. One of the important pieces to this project is if we had the 10-foot patio area, it allows us to serve the full student population and faculty and staff as it is intended within the next 2 to 3 years. Right now, we squeeze in about 270 diners during a period, so there's some overlap. But we're going to need at least 70 additional spaces to really serve that population comfortably and get to 500. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about these plans. And as I said, this is not a formal request, but I just wanted you to have an idea of what we are planning.
Thank you, Dr. Hagerty. Any questions from the commission?
I just want to say, Dr. Haggerty, top drawer as always, first class.
Thank you.
And I know there's no formal request at the moment. I certainly like, in the concept in general. I know we're waiting on our master plan to come back and make sure this ties in. But the one request I did have as you're looking at design and stuff is that we could maybe incorporate the ability for it to remain open during our events like Bike Fest and the arts thing. I know the other part closes down, and I understand the way it's designed that's because of damage, but closing 2 of them off would be probably a little problematic.
So, absolutely. And the first year for Bike Week, which could have been last year, we did close it off. We closed off Durand.
Right.
And we did so because we didn't know what to expect, and a number of people had said that we'd be running into some problems. Even before we came up with this, the desire now is for everything to keep that open and to keep this area open as well. Not only for Bike Fest, for any kind of event that you may have. And like I said, when you are dealing with town-gown relations, it behooves the institution to be the best possible neighbor that you can be. And I have really attempted to reinforce that, and I realize that the Durand Park, closing it down, may have been a bit of over precaution, but I can assure you that the decision's been made that this and Durand Park will now stay open for whatever. And it was only, I believe it was only the first Bike Fest that we had closed that down.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. I know you guys have been great to work with the city, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo the commission. I think what you do is beautiful, and it's definitely something that allows Leesburg to take pride when you drive down Main Street and see it. It's obviously there are the complexities that become when you have a college and a downtown trying to merge. So we understand, the problems that can arise from time to time, but you all have expressed that you're willing to work on those, and I hope by all means you feel that the city in turn likes to try to work as best as we can as well. I also echo with Commissioner Roebuck that I'd love to see it because, as we do these things, they do help, beautify the area and give us that sense of pride. But it's also nice when you have these events for people to go, wow, look what's back behind this corner, and have a set of, and be able to rest and get away from the mayhem. Sometimes you just want a place that you can take a break. And so, for me personally, based on what we've seen tonight, I mean, I know this is not formal, but, I wouldn't have an issue with it as long as all of it was staying open and accessible. I mean, I would, at this point, I would be a solid yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with all the comments made by fellow commissioners. I'll just take it one step further. Is there Could we actually do a formal easement agreement of some sort, so there's no misunderstandings 5, 10, 20 years down the road, that we have access to these, everything we talked about, just incorporated into some kind of easement agreement with the city? That's my only added comment.
And I echo everybody's sentiments. And I do go down the first one where you Palmetto Street, and it looks like it's not open to the public. It's like it's a Beacon College road. So for me, it gives me alarm to say a public street now becomes a private road that residents can't feel like they can access it. So for me, I would want to see us moving forward that if I'm walking down here, not even knowing I'm in Leesburg, I'm a visitor, that I feel I can walk through there without feel like I'm trespassing on Beacon College property. So that would be my major concern, is that when I'm walking, that I feel if I want to make a shortcut, that this is a public access, and I can do that no matter if it's Bike Fest or just a Monday afternoon stroll, that I don't feel like I'm infringing or trespassing. So that would be my biggest concern for me to support.
Sure, I can just tell you our experiences. People walk through there all the time, including people coming over from the library and having lunch, and so I've never known, and very honestly, people go from Main Street and use it so that they can go down and sit and wait for the bus. So I don't think we've ever had a real issue with that, but I can certainly assure you that we would give you that assurance, and we just have not run into that one yet.
Okay. And
But do you even have to actually give them the road to be able to do it? Couldn't they just do it and still stay the city's?
I think there's two answers to that question. A, they can build what they want to build within their permitted use, which would not, I don't think, allow them to build as big as they want. If they do expand into the right-of-way, then they would need some type of formal agreement with you. Whether that's a dedication of
Yeah, the
property to
reason I said
them,
easement, I
or an
thought-
easement, or what have you.
I thought we were conveying the road to them, so I was asking for an easement back. Be sure I'm clear on what, but
I think
I
probably.
think we're all saying the same thing. I just wanted to see more of a formal agreement.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to do that.
There's a whole spectrum of options available, from vacating the street on one hand, which would literally give them title to it, and then you would need your easement you're talking about, to the city retaining the street and entering into a right-of-way utilization agreement type thing. The city has done that in a number of cases where there were small encroachments. I don't recall one where it was ever for the whole street, but there's certainly no reason it couldn't be done that way.
so liability purposes, Fred, which would be the
most ironclad way to shield the city from liability would be to vacate it. But in the utilization agreement, you could certainly get an indemnity and assign liability to Beacon. So it could be accomplished either way. It would be contractual in one sense and legally based on ownership in the other sense, but you end up in the same place.
So what I was referring to was just an easement agreement on top of that, back to the city, some kind of agreement that we can negotiate out so that, staff changes over the years, just so there's no misunderstandings if we're vacating a perfectly good road.
Now, I know that an example is a lot of the roads you see crossing railroad tracks, there aren't that many of them anymore, but CSX used to use a right-of-way utilization agreement. And it was more of a license, and it was terminable. Theirs was rather extreme. I wouldn't want to go that far. But it did retain some rights to the railroad, and that would be one option you could explore.
When do we expect to have our master plan?
But the
concept
next
back?
month, we should have it here pretty soon.
Okay. I think this could fit nicely with it, but I do want to see that.
Yep.
Was this shared with that group? Have they seen this?
I don't think they've seen the plan. I know Mr. Mueller was at a couple of meetings, so I think they're pretty familiar with
Okay,
where it was
thank you.
headed.
anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Dr. Haggerty, anything else for us?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all that you do for Leesburg and Beacon College students. Mr. Arnold is not here tonight. He has some issues with his knees, so he's not here. Had surgery for his retirement plaque. So we'll move to the consent agenda, where it says routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. pull the items from the consent agenda, vote on remaining items with one roll call vote, and discuss each item and vote by roll call. Are there any items need to be pulled tonight?
4B3, 4C2, and the other is public hearing, so I'll wait till I get to that.
4C4.
That's it. A motion to approve the remaining items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 4B-C, 4B3.
4B3, I'll introduce and ask me read by title only, please.
Thank you.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing execution of a construction change order related to the City Hall restrooms renovation project and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Sorry.
Moved and properly second. Discussion, ma'am?
The reason I asked for this, did we not include this work on our request for proposal?
We did, the contractor totally did not see it /
Okay.
bid on it.
But my
And-
question then is, do we do a quality check on the RFPs when they come back to us? This should have been picked up before it was awarded.
We do a quality check on the RFPs before they go out. When they come back in, we get a number. This was not a line item bid, okay? So we got a number. We did question whether or not it was low, so we started the work. In doing the work, the contractor then notified us. And that's how we found out.
But they
we
were
missed
awarded the
spot.
bid according to what they put in, so shouldn't they be making that up?
I think that is the question of the hour.
Thank you, Fred. Should they be making that up?
From a strict legal analysis, the city could force them to build it for what they bid. The proposal is give us a break. That's the two options.
Can we go back to them and, come to another agreement rather than just $20-some thousand?
We can.
I would prefer to see it that way because the change orders that we get quite often are an awful lot.
It would, if you have a maximum number that you're willing to grant leniency on this, it would help us negotiate with that.
Okay, well, they're saying they want
About 20 grand.
$20-some thousand. I would go with 10,000. Next time they should be a little more careful. They were given the bid because they were so far under everybody else. Now they want to try to make up some of that.
For 23,000, they're still like $20,000 below the low bid.
At this time.
No, even with do you know the details on that? Even with the additional increase, there's still 20
20-some
plus
thousand, right.
below. No, add in the 23 they're asking for.
I understand
They're
that.
still significantly below.
I understand that.
Okay.
And if we can hold them to the fire and say, we're going to do this, even, and then they're never going to bid a job for the city again. And I don't know who these people are, but do we really want to burn a bridge with someone who, even with the screw up, would have been the low bidder? I mean,
The job's not done yet. Is there going to be another change order?
Okay, we'll wait till the job is finished.
I was just gonna say, let's just hold back on we'll give you the money in the end.
That's, sure.
So you work with them, DC, on
This is the first time we've worked with this contractor.
okay.
So far, he seems to be doing a good job.
Is it low?
From
They're trying to open a local office. I think
Winter
they're
Springs.
originally,
Winter Springs.
right. But that's a local office, and I think they've come from maybe New Jersey or somewhere. But they were well below all the other bidders.
Well, if this is their first time responding, then maybe they should learn to do it right the first time. And yes, I know it's only $20-some thousand more, but this happens a lot with other bids and proposals.
I would say it doesn't happen a lot with other
Yes,
bids
it
and
does over
proposals.
the
No,
years.
this is the first time I've been on the commission where they've missed something and you've come to us.
Yeah,
I mean, a change order is not a change order. You can't say that every time a change order, this is what happened. I mean, I think that's disingenuous and unfair to our purchasing department, who I think generally does a fantastic job, and this is literally the first time this has come up. So I'm okay with it because I don't think it's worth burning a bridge over someone who's still the low bid. It's an honest mistake. These things happen.
I'm not going to go off on my government versus private sector. But that's or I'd stop saying that. But in the private sector, they have to eat this. But whether it's 10 or 20, we put it on the backside. I'm okay with it. Only because they're still well below the other bids. I would not be in agreement with this if it took us above the next bid. I would have more trouble with it. But on that reason alone, I'm okay with whatever the commission wants to do.
Commissioner Early, got that?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Roebuck. I mean, I understand it, and hey, listen, I guess as one of those imperfect kind of fellas, I understand mistakes happen, and so they're doing good work. They're on time. They're going to be well beyond or well under the other bids, and so, I mean, I think if it was just an honest mistake, it happens. I think they'll learn from it, even if they don't get penalized, because it certainly don't make you look like you're doing your brightest due diligence. And I get that, but I don't want them to halt or slow down or anything else over $23,000. And hopefully they'll appreciate our perspective as well. And the next time they bid on something, remember that as well. Pay it forward kind of thing.
Well, I could understand that, and I'll go along with the commission, obviously. But I'm also responsible for the money that's spent in Leesburg. And I have seen this happen before for the past 7 years, where there's been change orders, large change orders coming in. And it was for things that should have been picked up originally. But I'm done with my say.
I worry a little bit about setting precedents and vendors thinking this, they can do this, but I'm okay.
So I don't know if Mike's here or not, but can we put something on that person orders?
We've already talked about, in a case where we have a spread this big, we probably ought to maybe go over in a little more detail with the low bidder. Mike and I have had that discussion already.
Okay. Any public comment on this item? I see Don Lucky shaking his head, and Bill Pope shaking his head.
Your roof, John, and I told you.
I need to come on to the microphone, Mr. Pope.
You're talking about our money, City of Leesburg's money. And I didn't come down here to talk about this. I'm just ice machine man. But Bill Pope, and we have had this happen before, Ms. Dennison. But if somebody was bidding on your roof and they told you it was going to be $5 and you agreed to pay $5 and they came to you and said, look, we messed up, it should have been $6, you don't have the obligation to pay them the $6. There's no obligation to pay them that extra money. Even though they were a low bidder, just like she said, you should probably review that low bid. And she jumped on me one time on the commission because I accepted this number 2 bid because he was, I thought, more qualified. So you have to look at the qualifications more stringent than you have been maybe. But there's no reason that you have to pay them $20,000. If you want to pay them $10,000, that's just thank you money, really. Mm-hmm. If it was personally me, it would be looked at pretty hard, and I just went through this with another job that I just got finished with. You're not obligated to pay them that money.
Thank you, Mr. Pope.
It's only $23,000, but it's the City of Leesburg.
Any other public comment? Okay, commission, any further comments before we vote?
It wouldn't be good if I did.
All right.
What are we voting on, 10 or 20?
All right, now we just have voting on the
motion, the
motion
resolution, which is the
passed
23.
for the 23.
I didn't want to. I wanted to save the whole 124 because I didn't want to read the bathrooms to start with. But
I did.
Don't go back. Don't go back there. Don't go back there. We stuck on 23 right now. All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck,
yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
No,
Commissioner Peterson,
No.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. All right. Item 4C2, the resolution. Someone like to introduce it, please.
I'm going to introduce and ask for read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor, city clerk to execute civic organizational funding agreements for fiscal year 2019-20 with Band Parents Association of Leesburg High School, Inc., Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida, Inc., Community Development Corporation of Leesburg, Inc., Leesburg Area Chamber of Commerce, Leesburg Arts Festival, DBA Leesburg Center for the Arts, Leesburg Partnership, Inc., and Melon Patch Players, Inc., and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
The reason I asked this to be pulled, when did we agree on these amounts that were going to go to the,
I think for the last 3 years, Commissioner, we've done this process the same. When I first got here, we sent out applications. The commission didn't like that. The next year, we came in and we did it in the budget process. And in the budget process, we highlighted out the the organizations that would be receiving the funding. So when we put together the general fund, and that's where I informed you we were using the solid waste versus the gas money. So we talked about this over the summer, pretty much the same as you did last year. So we had that discussion during the workshops.
okay, so these
We've
amounts
done
were
it.
approved during the workshop?
We did this the last
Okay.
4 years.
And I need to abstain from the CDC agreement for
So before we issue any of this money, we're getting these forms back,
Yes,
including the Boys and Girls Club.
yes.
Well, I just wish that wasn't such a dirty word around here.
It's not. So we do have a motion and second, more discussion from the commission?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You got something?
So you said
Any more comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Any,
I just, that $23,000 we gave up, I'd much rather give to groups like this. I gotta get that off my chest.
I've always been on the record that you shouldn't give out
That's right.
grant funding.
And I can attest to that. He has said that.
any public comment? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
No,
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
and Mayor Christian abstaining.
Yes.
Okay.
4C4 is a resolution. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask for your title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, appointing one member to the Leesburg Firefighters Retirement Plan Board of Trustees for a 2-year term to expire December 31st, 2021, and providing an effective date.
Who pulled that?
We have to put in his name.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I pulled it. It didn't list him.
I thought
He
we
was the
did
only
list him
one.
in there, didn't we?
No, it just says appoint one member.
You said put it in the body, but not in the header. So he was the only one.
So you're not telling us what to do? No, that's why. All right. So they ain't gonna insert.
I put it in the resume,
So I'm trying
right?
to learn
Yeah,
something.
it's in
So
the
because there's
resolution.
one,
It's in the
only one, it
resolution.
should be in the
Was it in the
title.
resolution? I don't.
It was in the resolution.
Okay,
Yeah,
well I
it's in
missed
the
it in the
resolution.
resolution. Okay.
That aside, who is it?
John.
He's, he's on the board
Remember
now.
seeing it.
Oh, okay.
He's been there
It's a
for years, just
reappointment.
reappointment.
Okay.
He's a chief financial officer. I appreciate him. I appreciate him volunteering and doing
It does
this.
a good job.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good. So move for approval.
You got a motion and second? Got a second? We already got a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Motion and second. Any further discussion from the public? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 5A is a second reading. Would you please read it, please?
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 18.3 plus minus acres from City PUD Plan Unit Development to City R1A Single Family Residential for property located northwest of the intersection of Wild Harbor Lane and County Road 25A as legally described in Section 34, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moving to properly second. Any discussion from the commission? From the public? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 5B is also second reading. Would you read it for us, please?
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, rezoning approximately 51.97 plus minus acres from City PUD Planned Unit Development to City PUD Planned Unit Development for property located east of US Highway 27 and south of County Road 48 as legally described in Sections 13 and 14, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
a motion?
Move for approval.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any discussion from the commission?
Yes. Where is the property for these additional 5 lots coming from? Are they going to be getting rid of some of the recreation land? Or are they making more houses per acre? I see it's supposed to be 2.5.
We'll hear from the staff first, man, then we'll hear from you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor Christian. They have just moved some areas around inside the plat, and they opened up some lots from some land that was already there. They haven't really decreased anything, but they were able to add 5 lots. And Kathy Hadaway is here with a presentation for you that the Planning Commission saw. And in that presentation, they're going to talk about a change to the fence requirement and the PUD conditions. Planning Commission agreed to the changes to a split rail fence along wetland areas. In other words, if you're in the community that abuts them and you're looking back toward what you used to see as a wetland area, would you rather look at the wetland or would you rather look at a 6-foot PVC fence? That recommendation was favorably moved forward to City Commission. I just needed to note that for the record. Thank you.
Did I answer that question?
That's fine.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. You want to hear from the applicant first? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Kathy Hadaway with Polis and Bennett, 2602 East Livingston Street, Orlando. And unfortunately, this there's just a number of little glitches, I think, that have happened on this application. We have submitted an application for two items related to the PUD. One is to increase the lot count by 5 units, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And the second is to modify the location of some interior lots on the project. And the third is to allow split rail fencing along certain areas of the perimeter of the property. And I apologize for coming here at the second reading to make this presentation and not being at the first reading, but it was on the agenda at the Planning Commission hearing on September 19th that they were, excuse me, the City Commission dates were tentatively scheduled for December 9th and January 26th. So we were not aware of your first reading. So I did want to come and make this presentation. And the second major issue is that the actual vote of the Planning Commission is not reflected in the staff report or the minutes in terms of what they recommended for approval. So I'm going to make for you this evening the exact same presentation that was made to the Planning Commission and supported in the Planning Commission's vote. So to move into the presentation, I mentioned we were requesting 2 things with regard to the site plan itself and the location of the lots. The first, I'll start with the areas on the left that's noted modification or modify lot locations. Based on the final engineering and some soils information, we've just moved some lot lines on the interior of the project. So those 3 lines just indicate certain areas where the lot lines were just insignificantly moved. The additional 5 lots, which is noted on the right side, is in the center of the property where the cul-de-sac is. And again, at final engineering, we were able to turn that area into a cul-de-sac and add 5 interior lots. You'll notice on the right side of that additional 5 lot area is a wetland. So none of these additional lots are visible from the perimeter of the property from the Legacy project that's to the south and the east of this project. So there's no impact on that project by this requested change. Currently, the fence and buffer condition that's in the proposed conditions of approval for the PUD, I'll just read section D. It says development of a buffer wall along arterial road, County Road 48 shall be required. And in addition, a 6-foot high PVC fence shall be required around the perimeter of the property on the west, east, and south for a development buffer. What we're proposing is something that we feel is more aesthetically pleasing than having a solid 6-foot fence around the perimeter of the property. If I can just bring your attention to the colors on that legend and how they correlate to the colors on the exhibit. On the top of the site plan along County Road 48, we would be proposing the split rail fence that's on the left upper side of the exhibit, which is a split rail fence with stone columns. So that would be along County Road 48, or along the entrance to the project. Then any area, and I'm going to kind of move around counterclockwise, so then any area that is yellow on the site plan is an area that is actually adjacent to existing residential. So that would maintain the 6-foot PVC fence that you see there in the exhibit. And then the areas where the property is, there's land that is adjacent to the perimeter but not a lot, it will not be developed as a lot, that's where we would have the split rail fence that you see on the right. And then we're proposing, and this is really common sense, but it wasn't brought out specifically in any of the conditions, where there's actually a wetland adjacent that's on this project that actually goes into the property adjacent to it. We would not have any fencing, because you wouldn't want to disrupt a wetland by putting a fence through it. So it's wetland to wetland is what that condition would be. So we would have, the conditions would either be wetland to wetland, it would be split rail to stormwater pond or vacant property, and it would be PVC fence adjacent to residential lot, if that makes sense. And I have, for the record, if I could give to the clerk, 2 exhibits here. One is this exhibit that you see on the overhead, and then the second is a specific exhibit with a request for a change to that condition language, and I'll read that into the record. What we're proposing in lieu of the currently proposed language for section 2C1D, it would read, installation of a decorative split rail fence with stone columns is required along arterial roads, County Road 48, close paren. In addition, a mixture of a 6-foot high decorative PVC composite or similar type fence and split rail fencing as illustrated in exhibit this, whatever this exhibit gets marked, shall be installed along the east, south, and western property lines on the development as visual buffer to adjacent properties. Mr. Mayor, may I give this to your clerk?
Yes.
So, again, this is exactly what was submitted or presented to the Planning Commission. Their vote was to support our request, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
So we need to amend this to add that into it, or is this already in there?
It needs to be amended.
Okay.
Commissioner Dennison, that's your district. Any comments?
It's going to be our neighbor. Quite frankly, I like that stone column
Yeah, I do,
and split
yeah.
rail fence. That's going to look nice on 48.
Make a motion to amend as presented.
Okay.
Second.
In a second, any comment from the public? Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Now we're going to vote on the main motion.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for a thorough presentation.
Thank you very much.
And not too long, right, Commissioner Hurley?
Doing good, doing good.
You get a yeah vote when you go short and thorough. All right, item 5C is the second reading as well. Would you introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask you read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, adding a PDO, Planned Development Overlay, on approximately 0.219 plus minus acres in an M1 industrial zoning district for property located west of US Highway 27 and north of Sumter Street as legally described in Section 27, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moving to proper second. Discussion from the commission. Public. All right. Let's go roll call.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Bill Polk, you know I love you, but I got to vote no. But you won anyway. All right, so that's no for me. I just hate the mic machine, but you won. So I waited till the 4 votes. If I was a deciding vote, then it would have been a tough one. You smiling, so I'm all right. Thank you. Information reports. We have a financial report of September 2019. Anything you want to point out? City staff, commission. All right. City attorney items.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City manager items.
The commission a few weeks ago brought up some stop signs. We did some research on that. Found the code actually gives the city manager the authority to have the chief of police look into those. I had chief work with the public works director. So we will be putting up 2 new stop signs, changing a 2-way stop at 9th and Magnolia to a 4-way, and we will be changing the 3rd and Meadow Street signs, same issue down there. We're going to start Meadow first, then move to Mag. The whole process take about 4 to 6 weeks. We'll do advertisements, get the police trailer up there, get the intersections marked. So we'll be working on that. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we'll move on.
All right. Public comments. This section reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, please. Any public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor. My name is Ken Chamberlain. I'm a resident of 1023 Melothon Circle. I've been a city resident for almost 20 years. My property, along with 6 of my neighbors, adjoins the very south end of the new Venetian Isle project, which is underway, which will include the Marriott Hotel and several other commercial properties and assisted living. This property was originally owned by the Clark family. It has been developed, and proposed developments have taken place over 13 years. From the inception of the first development, we live on a private road, which is at the very, very end of Lake Street, South Lake Street, and adjoins this new project. We have been told from the beginning that our private road would be protected, that we would have a fence separating our property from the development, and I have lots of information. I spoke briefly with City Manager Al Miner this morning, and he has arranged a meeting Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock. The problem is that as the construction has started, we first were notified by the excavating contractor that many of the things that we were told would be included have changed because of requirements for a large retention pond by St. John's Water Management, and things that were assured that would happen, like a fence and a gate and privatization of our road, are now being changed, including the retention pond, which is now up within 10 feet of our private road. No buffer, no fence, and these things obviously, and again, I have documentation going back to the 2006 original development, are of great concern of myself and my neighbors, And I want to make the commission aware that we are discussing it currently with Al on Monday, but we feel that the things that we were assured to take place, and I've stood up at many commission meetings over the last 13 years and said we are in favor of the development provided these assurances will be met and that we will have our private road and our protection of our private property. Unfortunately, the newest PUD does not contain some of that information, and the newest site plan that has just been recently submitted to the city for this tract, which I was never had an opportunity to even look at until Thursday when I spoke with the excavating contractor. We're talking about eliminating a large section of Clark Street and the east end of Melathon Circle by deed given back from the city to the developer, and have this whole parcel turned into a retention pond, which gives us a dead-end street, but we have no plans as to if we're going to have a turnaround. We have no plans how city services such as fire, emergency, even the refuge truck has to have a method to get in and out of this parcel. And all we see on this plan is a huge retention pond and none of the things that we've been assured that will be included. I would like to resolve this in an amicable way. I'd like to try to discuss, I'd like to go back and review some of the city records. But I don't know how many of the folks have been here as long as I have, but 13 years is a long time and a lot of water's gone under the bridge. But again, I have records and documentation, and I know for a fact, it's been stated at many commission meetings, that the changes by the new developer will not affect us residents at the end of the street. So,
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you the first person is the best person to talk to. Al. Al worked through those issues, and if there is anything that we can do from a legal standpoint to enforce, I'm sure Al will bring to us, or he'll probably do it at staff level. Once that site plan is approved, it's been approved by the city. 13 years ago, we got a new developer, and so we approved it, but I'm sure Al's going to ensure it. And I mean, we're going to make sure that fire personnel can get to where they need to get, as well as the refuge truck. So he's the person to start with. He'll work through all those issues, and if you got anything that comes up, I'm sure he'll bring back to the commission.
right, and I understand that, and that's where we're headed on Monday, and I just wanted to make the commissioners aware that this has come up with us, and that we hope that we can work through these issues, and look forward to meeting with staff and Al on Monday. And I'd like to wish all the commissioners a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving. Any other public comment? No. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennison?
Just happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe. That's it.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Roebuck?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Hurley?
I know it's City of Leesburg money,
Oh, no.
but I think 3 commissions ago, they should have updated those bathrooms, so I'm happy it's happening. I live in 2019, soon to be 2020, not 1960, so I'm proud of them. Other than that, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody as well, and hope you have a great week. That's all for me.
Mayor Christian?
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and to Al, I'm sure that probably Danny said anything, but that PVC fence that we own on the boulevard, can we please get that pressure washed?
Absolutely.
All right, that's all.
30 seconds, you got
Right
it.
there where they have the old across from the train station, and the big old nice PVC
12
fence,
seconds,
and
John.
it's green. How much? Give me 10.
You're down to 6.
All right, that's all I have. Motion to adjourn.